Jackson provoked extreme feelings of hate and adoration. There was no middle ground. It is remarkable that he survived so many attacks, both physical and political, by so many foes.
When many of Jackson's opponents spoke of him as a military dictator, as a despot who's going to destroy democracy and take over the country, some people apparently took this very seriously. And one fellow decided that he was going to save democracy by assassinating Andrew Jackson.
On January 30th, 1835, Jackson was visiting the Capitol building when he was approached by a deranged, unemployed house painter named Richard Lawrence. Lawrence raised a pistol and took dead aim at the president. The gun misfired. Lawrence immediately pulled out a second pistol and shot again at near point-blank range. Again, the gun misfired. Enraged, Jackson went after Lawrence with his cane and had to be restrained by his aides. At the age of 67, Andrew Jackson had cheated death again. In 1837, Andrew Jackson returned to his Tennessee home, the Hermitage. His hand-picked successor, Martin Van Buren, had been elected to succeed him as president.
As he traveled from Washington, D.C. back to Nashville, all along the route, people came out by the thousands to cheer Old Hickory, to cheer the people's president. So he felt honored by the people, he felt the love of the people, but he had to look forward wondering what the next years were going to bring.
When Jackson returned home, he was 70 years old. He was shocked to learn the Hermitage had been grossly mismanaged by his adopted son, Andrew Jackson Jr. $7,000 in debt, Jackson was deprived of an easy retirement and struggled to survive, economically and physically. Chronic tuberculosis rendered him frail. He abhorred endless queries from political hopefuls seeking advice and favors. "I am dying as fast as I can," Jackson reportedly said, "and they all know it, but they will keep swarming upon me, crowds seeking for office." Jackson was enraged when Martin Van Buren lost his re-election bid to William Henry Harrison.
The new party, Harrison's party, the Whigs, was the party that opposed everything that Jackson had stood for. So Jackson in the early 1840s could believe that much of what he had accomplished as president was now being unraveled.
On June 8, 1845, Jackson's condition took a severe turn for the worse. Fearing the end was near, his doctor made him as comfortable as possible. Jackson summoned his son, friends, and servants into the room. The slave woman, Hannah, in whose arms Rachel died 17 years earlier, was among those present for Jackson's final moments. Barely conscious, he spoke his last words.
"I hope to meet you all in heaven, black and white."
When he finally expired, somebody turned to one of the servants and said, "Do you think General Jackson has gone to heaven?" The servant thought a minute and said, "If General Jackson wants to go to heaven, who's going to stop him?" That's Andrew Jackson.
As he requested, Jackson was buried beside Rachel in the garden of the Hermitage. Across America, common men, women, and children mourned the loss of a man whom they believed dramatically changed their lives.
One measure of Jackson's importance to American history, to his age, is the fact that of all the common labels or eras in American history, the colonial era, the revolutionary era, the early national period, Reconstruction, the New Deal, the Cold War, there's only one that's named for an individual, the Jacksonian era. Jacksonian democracy summarizes the idea that in this country, political power ultimately rests with the people, that ordinary people should run this government.
Today, many Americans simply know Andrew Jackson for his likeness on the $20 bill. Considering his lifelong ill health, it is a romanticized image, inspirational for some, disheartening for others.
He's on the $20 bill because he's a great statesman, and at one time, all Americans regarded him as a hero, and they wanted to acknowledge the development of this unique experiment in democracy and in freedom.
You know, I've suggested to our tribal government we ought to not accept $20 bills in the casino because his picture's on it, but that's what everybody's carrying right now. I think generally the passage of time has softened some of those thoughts. I've told people that he was a criminal, and I believe he was a criminal.
I know a lot of Native people that won't use 20s. They, deliberately ask for 10s in change because of Andrew Jackson's face on the $20 bill. Jackson was indeed a person that led Americans down a path that was shameful and that was grossly wrong. And so why in the world we would adulate this man in our textbooks or on our currency is just absurd and unfortunate.
Jackson was, he was an American original, and he represented, I think, the very best in American culture. He must have had self-doubts. Every day he would pick up a newspaper and it would be throwing dead cats at him. But his self-doubt was overcome by this incredible strength of will that told him somewhere deep down, I am right, I will pursue this course. And I think that's why today Jackson is on the $20 bill.
In an age when presidential candidates must rely on hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign funds from wealthy contributors, it would be easy to think that Jacksonian democracy is dead. But many believe that Jackson's ideals are still alive.
We still live in the age of Jacksonian democracy. Jacksonian democracy is imperfect now. It was imperfect in Jackson's time. But the people still do ultimately control politics. It would have surprised Jackson to know that more than half of American voters don't go to the polls today. He would have been very disappointed in that because it was something that he devoted his life to making possible. And now for people to just ignore politics would have struck him as mind-boggling. But in that respect, it demonstrates that Jackson simply was too successful. We take for granted